somebody mess with one of them, well, you messing with all of them. You ain't gonna bully him, I know that, because I'm not gonna let you bully nobody over here. So you can take them bully tactics somewhere else, or we can go ahead and get it over with right now. That's up to you. It don't matter to me one way or the other. I want the smoke the same way you do. I want peace the same way you do. If you want the smoke, I want the smoke. If you want peace, I want peace. And we can do it however. That's how I was. I'm not gonna look for you, but I'm gonna bump into you.
Yeah, and we
And when
ain't
I
gonna
bump
push.
into you, you're gonna remember me.
Yeah, like I remember I used to tell like in the set, I used to tell people, hey, don't if I saw a dude pressing him and I say, oh yeah, he don't and the dude act like he don't want it, I say, I let him make it, cause he don't want it, let him make it. He's nigga was talking first, but now you press him and he man now. Hey, so we ain't never press nobody too hard that they want you don't want no trouble. But don't start no shit, it won't be no shit, right? You know what I'm saying?
I'm bone crusher, baby. I ain't never scared. I
Yeah.
ain't never scared.
Hey, we about to get up out of here, man. Hey, we got 1,200 people in here, man. Raw Hayes don't do it for the money, but we got this Cash App on there, man. If y'all want to show some love, everybody send them $1. That'll be 1,200, man. That'll put them in the game so we can keep these. We got to keep Chief good so we can get these updates on the land, man. So because we're in a critical time now, we're going to a critical time. 2025, a lot of prophecies have been said to happen that year, like about the earthquake, a whole bunch of things. The switching of the government. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So we need to stay live, stay alert for this coming up. 2030, Doc spoke about 2030, the end of the devil's rule, the complete end of his world. So we looking at the parasites being removed, whole bunch of stuff going on. So we need to stay updated. Shout out to everybody that's came in, man. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. What you got to say, Rod? You got to say you want to say?
Parents, talk to your children and let them know that the National Guard not here for us to stay out them people way. Because we don't want them to get caught in something that they totally innocent, but they get treated like the enemy. If they do the martial law, just follow the curfew because there's going to be some dastardly deeds taking place under the cover of darkness. There's going to be a whole bunch of good men doing some real bad stuff to some truly wicked individuals. And they're not taking no prisoners and they're not asking no permission. It's not going to be pretty. Y'all need to know this now. Y'all need to sit them boys down, have a conversation with them. Wherever you at, make sure you're going to be where you're going to be at the curfew. You don't want to be transitioning during the curfew and get caught up with the wrong crowd. We don't want that to happen. This is about them judges, them lawyers, and some of them got private military of mercenaries that they've paid very well to not let these National Guards people take them in. You may have shootouts between different factions of private military forces and National Guard in your city, but I don't know which city it might be. It could be any one of them. They everywhere and they about to get cleaned up. These private militaries, they caught one in upstate New York a couple of years ago, and it was staffed with a whole bunch of Chinese orphans. And it was under the control of George Herbert Walker Bush through his CIA connection. And they blew it up. I posted about it when it was fresh, but they blew it up. If I run across the post in my memories or something, I'll repost it on Facebook. But they blew that damn military base up. They had something like 2,000 soldiers up there. So it can be gunfights in the streets, but it don't have to have nothing to do with us unless we go putting ourselves in other folks' business. Don't got nothing to do with us. Let them clean this up. Don't get caught in the crossfire. Don't be collateral damage because there's something in the military during warfare called collateral damage. Just because you got switches, they got some switches for your switches. They got way more stuff to fight this war than we do in the hood.
Right.
And it's some niggas in the hood they coming to get to. Believe that. They've been doing a lot of dirt for a long time, and people know who they is. You know
Mhm.
who them dirt dealers is in your local town that don't nobody like to talk about because they're scared they're going to come up missing.
Right.
They coming to get them. They know who they is. There ain't no hide. Ain't nowhere to run. Ain't nowhere to duck. Ain't nowhere to hide.
That's deep.
They coming to get them. I'm telling y'all now, they coming to get them. All the dirt dealers, these people, this military, with the assistance of the National Guard has been given the permission to utilize special forces from the U.S. military branches, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine, to do this operation to get these MFs off the land. And they're not who you think. They're not going to be based on skin color
Right.
because they're going to look every color under the sun. Wherever people at, it's going to be somebody that look like that in the cleanup. But they dirt speak for itself. Most of us know who them dirty players is in our local town. They coming to get them. You thought because of the whispers that wasn't they was going untouchable. They probably didn't got arrested 1,000 times and they never did more than 24 hours.
Right.
They
Right.
know who they is. Trust me. Just like they knew which chiefs to kill when they was murdering us, they know who to get off the land now that we reclaimed it back. So don't let our children get caught up in that. It's not
Facts.
our war.
Facts. And on that note,
And they gonna reserve the right to deputize the tribe to aid in the cleanup. That means you might have a whole faction of Pyru in Pyru territory cleaning Pyru territory up because they would rather for you to clean your own hood up than them come in and do it for you.
right. Facts.
Right?
Facts.
It's gonna make Vice Lord's gonna be cleaning up Vice Lord neighborhood. GD's gonna be cleaning up GD neighborhood. But it's gonna happen. This gonna get cleaned up one way or another. Cause we done with the shenanigans.
Right.
We just waiting on the rollout now. Something big's supposed to go down for Christmas, y'all. It's supposed to be some big good stuff this time. I
Right.
don't know what it's gonna be. They might start getting everybody checks. I don't know. But it won't be under the old regime
Right.
because their system is over. The IRS just got audited. They $545 billion missing.
Damn. We know where that ain't
So,
missing. We know where it's at. The black
well, you know,
white glove.
they can't account for it.
Yeah,
Now,
right.
at first it was the Federal Reserve couldn't account for it. Now the IRS can't account for it damn near just as much. So that's almost $1.5 billion missing
That's crazy.
just for nothing. It was like 1.2 billion, 1.3 billion, something like that. That's a lot of money
But they
that,
always harassing everybody else about what they got going on.
but that's the money they supposed to be fixing our roads, building our infrastructure, giving everybody lights, gas, and water to their house where you supposed to have no bill. They using the money for their stuff.
Yeah, I noticed America never get really built up. The only thing that's getting built up is corporations. They never build America educational system where we can be like China. Like China, the way they everything hands on, everything free, colleges, like everything free. You know what I'm saying?
Speaking of education, I want you to show them this one more lady before we go named Charlotte Isherby on YouTube. This is the lady that's running down the entire fraud of the No Child Left Behind money making scheme of the government. And they was taking the wealth from, like, for instance, Detroit had a surplus of like, I think it was like $5 million or $5 billion in educational funding. John Engler was the governor. Went to his lobby and told them to decentralize Detroit's Department of Education. Detroit sued them, took them to court, won, but they couldn't give the money back because they said they used it to build a prison in Ionia Bellamy Creek.
Cool video we did, right? And so I went
Uh,
and got the book. It's called The Liberty Dumb Down America, and they actually
mhm.
break down on how these black hand guys were going to keep us in a state of workers and employees, pretty much, and never teach us how to own or no kind of I actually
Perpetual
read that.
consumers,
Huh?
worker consumers. Because you working and you generating the income, and as a consumer, you giving them your income to live your life. It's a trick. It's a Rockefeller program. It's a couple of books. It's one called "Boys Will Be Boys" by a Jewish lady. Um, it's another one called um, I forgot what it's called, but it's a whole lot of them. If you put that book in the Liberty Dumbing Down of America and scroll down, it's gonna have a whole bunch of them about how the educational system is designed to dumb us down and control us. Right. I think one of them is called Destruction of Western Education or something like that. Then you got to remember, you also got the Nathan and Julia Hare material on the education of our children. You got the Hockey Mahubuti information on our children. You got the Wilson information, Awaken the Natural Genius of the Black Child, etc., dealing with our children. So we also have, if go to there and type in the other Bush family. The other Bush family, the sister educated their own children. They all graduated from university when in their teens, right? So I'm gonna leave it at that, Elder. I'm gonna let you take us on home from here.
Hey man, we about to get up out of here. We will be back once we gonna keep eye on what's going on the land. We will be back to give you another smoke signal if we see anything change drastically. As of right now, everybody is running and hide now. Getting the hell out of Dodge. You can feel the energy change. After Trump won, you can feel the energy change. Like the evil is like going down a little bit. The evil
I
energy.
told you it was a shooting spike on election day.
Mm-hmm.
That's an energy shift of itself.
Mm-hmm.
We between two portals right now.
Hmm.
We between the nope. We just went in and came out. So we went into the 10-10 portal in October.
Mm-hmm.
That flips out on 0101, right? Then you had your um, um, 1101, then it flipped 1110, right? And the next one is 0111 is the exit from that one. So we in these portals right now, which is artificial time constructs in order for energy to find paths of least resistance to materialize mass manifestation energies. So if your manifestation is in line with whatever is materializing through the other side of the portal, your manifestation will be accelerated because it's part of the collective, it being in agreement with manifesting something. So a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, we're gonna come back. We're gonna keep them updated. We about to get up out of here, man. We live. We lit. And like I say, we gonna win this war. Why? Because we can dance.
Man, we are in the building tonight. We are in the digital building tonight. Family, make sure you hit that like button. It's getting ready to go down. It's going to be a legendary night. I talked about this night for a little while now. I said I told you I wanted to put it together, and I finally put it together. So yeah, without further ado, let me introduce back to the platform. All of these brothers have been holding it down on this platform this year a lot. They've been doing their thing, so it's an honor to have them all on here together as we continue to celebrate this paradigm shift that we see happening right now. I want to welcome back B-Dell, Rod Hayes, and RFG, the chosen one. Welcome, y'all.
Peace.
Sir, thanks for having me on.
Indeed, indeed. All right, so family, well, I'm hearing a little echo. All right, so this ain't gonna be an ordinary conversation. So you might hear some wild shit. Rod Hayes might say Joe Budden's a robot again. You might hear some real wild shit. So just be prepared, because this ain't going to be your normal conversation. This is and that's good. That's a real good thing, because truth, we've been lied to so much that truth would seem like a science fiction book. So let's get this thing started. I want to give a shout out to the name of the show was inspired. New Species was actually inspired Bobby Hemmett by Bobby Hemmett. I remember when I was younger, Bobby Hemmett used to talk about. Oh, I didn't even notice you had on the shirt. Yeah, damn, I didn't even know. I just noticed that. But Bobby Hemmett used to talk about all the alchemical process of what happened to us in America. There was a new species that was being born. There was a new people that was going to be birthed from that. All the mixing, all the everything that happened. It was like we're like this big alchemical experiment that happened. And you see what we've become, and shit, man, you're gonna see what we'll become in the next 500 years. So shout out to the soul of the brother Bobby Hemmett. And with that being said, let's get this thing started. How y'all doing, Rod, B-Dell, RFG? How y'all doing?
I'm doing great.
Doing good, doing great.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Family, make sure, I see we got about 1,500 people already. Make sure you hit that like button, so you know the whole world could come join us tonight and participate in this conversation. All right, so let's get this thing started. Everything happening, the DNA upgrades, the ascension process, the solar flares, the just so many things happening, the eclipses that's going on. We feel it inside. People hearing their ears ringing. People are having abilities become active that they didn't have before. RFG did a video recently that got snatched, and I had to throw it on Patreon because it got snatched. Y'all remember that from 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about that. So this is like a part 2 to that. What I want to ask you is that, all right, so we study ancient history. Rod Hayes, I don't know if I heard Rod, I heard Billy talk about it. I don't know if B-Dell touched on it. I don't know if RFG touched on it, but there's characters in antiquity. Let's use characters, the Anunnaki characters. I don't know if it was Inky and Lil, whoever. They said some of these characters put a cap on our DNA, right? They said they put a cap. Say that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. So
they actually stripped back the telomeres to shorten the lifespan.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they did what's called a DNA graft to give us a worship gene, so that the guy reverence will be able to entrance us under a spell of hypnosis.
Right.
It'll be encoded in your DNA to respond in that manner.
So one of the reasons for the spell of hypnosis is that we have this spark of divinity within us. We have the spark of divine source, Big Mama. We got this spark within us that is more powerful than anything in the universe. So Bobby many people talked about the power of the imagination. There's something that people on the internet talk about that's called psychic surgery. Now, they say the brain can't distinguish between reality and imagination. So if we use this God power called our imagination, people say they have had psychic surgery performed on them by entities while they were asleep and woke up and was a complete different being. I want to talk to you about the ability. Like I said, this ain't a normal conversation. The ability for us to use psychic surgery, use our imagination. We go into theta mode before we go to sleep. And on us, our DNA, to reverse whatever spell was put on us in our DNA. Moving forward, us being a new being, a new species, a new people, is this something that y'all see that could be beneficial for us to reverse the curse, or reverse, as Rod Hayes says, the conjure?
Yes. Well, that worship gene was basically the vesicular monomod transporter 2 gene.
Yeah.
And that basically has a hardwired connection to where it gives you the propensity to believe in things outside of yourself. So you have two different forms of ether that's based on the creation of the mind that is comprised of the cybersphere and the ethosphere.
Right.
And those two different realms have the ability to manipulate the neurotransmitters to where it's able to reconstruct back into its original form. So that's when you tap into, like, as far as like your higher abilities, is when you stuck in super chiasmatic nucleus that works in tandem with the cosmic clock. So all that works in conjunction as far as like putting a cap consciousness that is acclimated to the firmament and the cap and an encryption over the brain, basically. So once we tap into those energies, that's when we're able to tap into our true power that's connected to the etheric network and dark matter energy.
Rod, RFG, one of y'all want to touch on that?
Go ahead, RG.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with what the brother B-Dale was saying. And I believe whatever took place on a cosmic level in 2012 was the greatest emission of light codes in this particular realm in the past 2,000 years. And I'm just grateful to be a part of it. You know, I'm grateful to have received many of those light codes, and for me to have been on this journey to acquire the knowledge that I was able to acquire, and to be able to wake up as many people as possible. And I think a loophole around that particular gene is simply the hemoglobin in the DNA inside of the not the DNA inside of the cell. There is a organelle called the hemoglobin, and we have what's called iron, the iron atom in our hemoglobin. So every time we breathe, we take in the oxygen atoms. The oxygen atoms steal electrons from the iron in our hemoglobin. And every time oxygen atoms steal electrons from our iron in our blood, we lose energy. We lose vital energy that's used to keep our cells functioning. So in the ancient days, before this planet was invaded, the original beings had carbon and the hemoglobin, and carbon is able to bond to oxygen, and it's able to carry oxygen throughout the body. And when it releases oxygen, the oxygen doesn't steal an electron from the carbon atom. So we were able to breathe oxygen, but not lose electrons. So we were able to live for thousands of years, just like the trees, over 6,000 years ago.
Right.
You gotta also remember that the iron was replacing the magnesium in the transfer in the blood in order to cause biological entropy. So the biological entropy is the breakdown that the leaching of the electrons is doing. It's causing it to deteriorate. The iron begins to rust.
Okay.
And then the interaction in the cells make the pigmentations of the melanocytes a brown tint instead of a tint of shades of blue and green. Right?
I see.
When they did this in the laboratory, we didn't use so they crashed the fourth dimension into the third dimension in order to split your consciousness in two dimensions simultaneously. This was the great fear of CERN at the close of the age, because that's what created the infinity loop to put you in what's called perpetual reincarnation cycle.
Okay.
You're playing out the same story over and over on a different timeline every time you come back, until you realize that you've been psychologically and spiritually trapped into a cycles within cycles matrix in order for the mind to lose track of itself internally and seek itself externally in the realm of opposites.
Yep. I'm with you on that.
So when they tell you we in a simulation, they right, but we in a 3D manifestation, and the 3D manifestation is still tied to prime source. Right? The characteristics of the simulation is shown in the epigenetic programming. Everything is coming from outside of the body into the body. Your brain is not your mind, but your mind uses your brain to translate mental stuff into a understanding in the 3D world. So your brain is a supercomputer translating spiritual data into the 3D realm in order for you to understand what you're looking at.
Exactly.
So now you want to talk to yourself. That's why I seen Dr. Be Serious at the beginning, and he was talking about the kinesthesia of the self. Right? It's been a long known in the self-help world that if you're making a bad decision, your body gets weak. If you're making good decisions, your body becomes strong. And that knowledge can allow you to ask yourself if you're making the best choice for yourself.
Now when you say, my bad for interrupting, but when you say good and bad, do you mean high vibrational versus low vibrational?
Exactly. Because those things that we consider bad and those things we consider good are only separated by the frequency they come in on. That's part of the reality, right? All death, I mean, the frequency of death, but it got branches. So now all of the frequencies of death can be broke up into the gunshot victim, the stab victim, the accident victim, but they all got branches on the death tree. Natural causes, unnatural causes, right? You start narrowing down the branches because you have to be able to put the information in a digestible format, and the more people you can explain it to, then the more people you connect on a mental awareness level in order to control the great egregore. That's why they say knowledge is king.
Facts. Okay, so in this realm, one of the big things that people focus on, have always focused on, was manifesting things into this realm, bringing things into existence. Some people call it magic. Some people call it science. There have been many names. Some people call it alchemy. There have been many names for having something in your mind, and then it may be in my mind. I'll give you an example. I had the Gathering of the Masters in my mind one day, one year, and then next thing I know, boom, there's 2,000 people in a room, and I see BDL, and I see BDL there. You know what I mean? It's just all the master teachers there, but that shit was in my mind just a couple of years ago, just strictly in my mind. So what I want to ask you about, I remember I had a conversation with Brother Polite. I'm gonna bring him up because I got to use an example, so I want to bring him up. I had a conversation with him many years ago, and I'm like, "Yo, how you able to manifest so much, man?" And he told me, he said, and B-Del recently said something that reminded me of what he told me. He said, "Yo, Rich, yeah, I use platonic solids." He was like, "Yo." He was like, depending on what I'm thinking, I use a different shape. I visualize a different shape depending on the emotion of what I'm thinking. And I forgot what he said. So, but he was like, if I want to get this, then I use this shape. If I want to get that, I use that shape. If I want to get that, I use that shape. And then he was like, yo, I just imagine, just like you send an email to somebody, I send an etheric email out there. I'm like, but like, what the fuck? I didn't expect all of that. Nigga told me he sent etheric emails. He uses different shapes depending on emotion. So in terms of the topic of bringing things into existence in this world, I mean, motherfuckers cut chickens, sacrifice babies. We have done everything that you could think of in humanity to bring things into this realm. They say the new magic is the mind magic. So let's talk about mind magic and platonic solids. Tell me, how do you use, what's up with platonic solids and manifestation based on what I just said?
Well,
Okay.
I'll take
real quick. Well, when you're talking about the platonic solids, the best way to encounter your tunnel vision is connected to manifestation. That is your interstellar vortex portal in order to tap into that energy. So it's all based upon the mind magic.
Absolutely, absolutely. Every single physical object that we can look at in this universe, in this realm, at first was a thought. Especially when we talk about buildings, ornaments, objects, inventions, everything that we look at in this society. At first, it was existing in the fourth dimensional realm. So, I believe B-Dell he's dead on with that assessment.
Yeah, because that's connected to the mental plane, which is called, I think that's called the abode of the Most High, I believe, when you go on the path of Masut, after you become a neophyte.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's my take on that.
Absolutely.
Rod, you want to close that out, Rod?
Yeah. So Bedell gave you what's called the mechanics of the operation.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What I'm about to tell you here is what you're building using those mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
You know that symbol that they call it looked like the star of life. That's what it's called. It looked like the lotus flower.
The hexa alpha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Platonic solids, when encapsulated with a thought form, they each one of them have a place in there that you can only see when you look at it holographically. Now remember, the observer collapses the wave into a particle. And if the observer infuses the collapse with intention, the collapse is going to arrive at the destination of what you perceive fourth dimensional mind matrix. The fourth dimension mind matrix is drawing all of the information from what you put in. So spiritual people, once you understand what each one of the shapes means, the energy that they carry, and you use it according to its own frequency, you using it like a conjure tool, like witches use and magicians use magic wands. It becomes a tool that you don't need to use in the 3D world, because now you can use the understanding of the frequency of the platonic solids to encapsulate it with the desire that match that frequency, and then you can psychically send it back to its position in the star of life, and it's going to project your path back to you in the mirror effect, as above, so below. 6/9 in the balance.
Very interesting.
It's all about perspective and angle. So Brother Polite was giving you a science.
Right.
Brother Bedell just told you the mechanics of how the science works.
Yeah.
Right. And what I was just telling you is what they doing that y'all not being explained between the two. Right. So it's like reading tarot cards. The tarot cards is the training wheels for the psychic perception to be honed in. This is with anything you manifesting. If you don't make any effort, it just delays the result. And this is why they say if you take one step toward God, God take 2 steps towards you. Because you mirroring yourself in your manifestation, you harnessing your God frequency. By using the power of your mind and imagination fused together, right brain, left brain, abstract linear logic. You telling the universe, translate this into my reality when this wave collapses into this particle. And you arrive at your destination like you was riding on the escalator.
You are the universe experiencing itself.
Right.
No, facts. So let me ask you this. I want to know, moving forward, Now we're talking about a new species, a new being being created. One thing I was just talking to what's his name, Billy, yesterday, and we was talking about. I asked him about ancestral veneration within the Black community and how big it is, and us asking our ancestors for guidance. Now, let's say if we're a new species and we're getting ready to do something that hasn't been done before, or a lot of our ancestors that passed on aren't aware of. Do you think it would be just as beneficial moving forward in this new paradigm? The same way we practice ancestral veneration, should we practice, I guess you could call it future self veneration, where we ask our future selves for the same help, the same way we do our ancestors, because the future selves know exactly what we need so that they could incarnate into this realm and do the things that they already did, since time doesn't really exist. They know exactly what we need to do, so when they incarnate, they could fulfill their destiny. Should we practice future self veneration the same way we do ancestral? And I see Rod smiling. So Rod, why don't you start this, Rod? I see you smiling.
Look, Khalil Gibran got a poem talking about the parent is the bow and the arrow is the child that the parent shoots into the future.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why do you raise your child the way that you raise them? Are you raising them to make better choices than you did? Or are you raising them to make worse choices? Most parents that love their child is going to try to give them the understanding on how to make the best choices and to always choose the choice that's best.
Mm.
Right? That's you talking to your future self.
Mm.
All your future incarnations, you programming them into your child because he's going to live it out and he's going to take and refine it and he's going to feed it further into the future, more refined than it was when you sent them out.
Right.
So when we talk about breaking generational curses and ancestral reverence and things of this nature, these are frequencies that our DNA is using this frequency from past ancestry.
Right.
If you take one person out your ancestry 10,000 years ago, you ain't here.
Mm.
You don't exist.
That's right.
Every single ancestor you had was necessary for you to be Brother Rich.
Mm. That's facts.
Take one of them out, you ain't Brother Rich no more. You don't. Instead of having a Mind Awakening podcast, you're gonna be a rap star and you're gonna be taking Tupac's spot. Because your frequency would be different, so your life purpose would be different. And the way that you play it out is all of the accumulation of the ancestors that understand each one of the problems you face. You don't call on your plumber ancestor when you need an electrician ancestor to tell you how to fix these wires.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you call on the plumber, you perfect the task because you download the correct frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the same with the ancestral reverences, keeping a communication with your inner self, which is the ancestral realm that talks to all the way through the DNA.
Mm-hmm.
You communicating with all the ancestral frequencies in your DNA, and the more reverence you give them, you purify the energy. The energy is always purified through love, honor, and respect. But if you want your worst ancestors to come, you do the exact opposite, and they'll show up too.
Okay.
But no matter what frequency you're on, you're going to be tuned in to a series of ancestors that produced you.
Mm-hmm. Got you. Be there, RFG.
Yeah. One thing you got to understand is the delineation between the gematria body and the Zohar body.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the gematria body is basically teleconnected to the simulation. So that means that the gematria body in itself is being manipulated by the neutrinos, and the neutrinos are basically particles of antimatter, or what you call Holy Ghost particles. And those Holy Ghost particles is tapped into your higher self, which is known as your Zohar body. your Zohar body is connected to the basically these forms of gamma radiation that's amalgamating with the carbon body. So that basically means that your ancestors is living through you in order for you to tap into your higher states of consciousness that put you on evolution as far as like you being at your higher stuff or whatever. So the same thing is as far as like what's taking place in the cosmos is bringing that energy here when it comes to that aspect of it. So the, you know,
Okay.
so that's why I was saying, like, as far as like, you know, the gematria body is basically an encryption over the body that is basically being controlled by electronic devices and things of that nature. But we breaking out of that spell right now, which is what we
But
call
also, that also tie into the numbers in your life that become prominent importance for you to see where you're going.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because the gematria is just translating to what the numbers you reading the binary code now.
Facts.
And now when you tell them what the gematria mean in translated form, you reading the streamers like them people sitting behind the keyboard on the Matrix.
Mm.
So your perception is being fine-tuned in order for you to be able to explain to them what it is they're looking at.
Mm.
Okay. RG, did you add on to that? I stepped off a second. Or are you good? Or
Me personally, when I think of like calling on the ancestors and things of that nature, like I always
selves, ancestors versus moving in the future, yeah, future selves, like calling on our future selves. Yeah.
okay. I know there's a difference between our physical avatar and then who we really are, which is an accumulation of dark energy and ether energy consciousness. And when we call on specific ancestors, I believe we have to be very careful because, you know, we had ancestors that operated on a very high frequency. We had ancestors that operated on a very low frequency. So, you know, it's always, you know, very beneficial to do very diligent research on who is who down the line in your bloodline.
If you don't correct the ancestry that come to you on a frequency, let's say it's alcoholism. You got an alcoholic uncle that want to live vicarious through you, so he want to influence you to rock his frequency by consuming mass amounts of alcohol. Then he can take control. But it's not really him; it's the frequency that's trying to be in control of the life. And when you block down the frequency, you activate the frequencies that's more to your liking to run interference on your behalf called spiritual protection.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It's part of shadow work.
So I asked a question. I asked this question. One person I asked this question to before. It was either Seven Beaumont or Billy Carson. I forget. And I'm gonna like remix the question a little bit. But basically, we're in this era of spirituality where we're taught to be positive and say affirmations and say what you want out loud and repeat it as many times as you want. From experience in life, and I heard Seven talk about this the other day on his show also. From my experience, sometimes when I'm the loudest about my mantras or I'm the loudest about what I want, I don't get sabotaged from people in the outside world. It almost seems like something inside me sabotages things. So it seems like the louder I get, I done gave out all the intel. Now some motherfucker inside of me knows how to counter it and do what they got to do for, like, let's say you want to get a new car and you keep saying you want to get a new car, right? You're about to get you say it out loud. Then all of a sudden the weirdest shit in the world happens so that you don't get this new car. But sometimes a person is quiet about it. He moves in silence and he gets the car like that. I want to ask you, is there something, and I heard Seven talked about frequencies wanting to stay alive. So let's say you have a frequency of misery or whatever that exists within you. that frequency wants to stay alive. So when you want to be happy, that frequency will rebel, and something will pop up in your life out of nowhere, and that could be that frequency trying to stay alive. How do we communicate with these frequencies that may exist within us and let them know, hey, listen, I'm going to the next level. You ain't got to ruin shit. You ain't got to do no wild shit. You don't fuck shit up. But I am going to get to this next level. I'm going to save a little room for you to exist. But I'm going to get here. Like, how do we do that? How do we just be positive, but to being realistic and saying, listen, this frequency is going to fight back if I try to do this. How can I communicate it and form a truce with it, like nations form truces with each other so that they can live in peace and harmony with each other?
Sometimes conquest is necessary.
Say that again.
Sometimes conquest is necessary.
Explain, Rod. Explain.
There's usually an example of sometimes two nations with opposing views can make a treaty of agreement. Sometimes they can't. And when that happens, it might be required for one of them to conquer the other one in order for them to even find a semblance of peace between the two. Conquest becomes necessary. When you're looking at the energies and you're doing the shadow work, the frequency that you exercise the most is going to be the strongest. And so when that energy rebel, if you don't have sufficient practice on the new energy, the energy that you choose, the energy that you used to is going to come back up and interfere with your process. This is what you're talking about. If you're looking at everything from 3D matrix, and we believe that the 3D is the answer. But the answer comes in spiritually, translates mentally, and plays out physically. So when you face with those energies, that means that you haven't built up the energies required to meet your task because you haven't done enough due diligence to build that energy momentum up.
Right. Gotcha.
Interesting.
Well, based on my own observation, when it comes, I call it, keeping your cup full to where you're not leaking energy. So sometimes when you say certain things that you're going to do, sometimes it doesn't like materialize in physical form. So sometimes it's just best to keep certain things to yourself in order to harness that energy, because it helps you tap into your telepathic abilities to where you're able to manipulate certain timelines and time dilation in order to, make certain things, manifest or whatever. Right. So like I said, I call it, leaking energy. When I say I'm going to do something, I don't tell a lot of people. I just kind of keep it mental, and I just conserve the information, and then I just, let it materialize.
Gotcha.
That's the point in ceremonial magic as well.
Yep, you can telekinetically block somebody's plans, somebody's potential manifestation. There were instances where people were surrounding somebody that was like in an emergency situation, and they were like critically injured, and they did like a seance, like over 100 people like did a seance over somebody who was like injured, and that person was healed within a matter of like a few minutes. And the ancients called that energy the power of the Ka, the Ka, and that proves that we have those metaphysical, those supernatural powers. Like everything that manifests itself in the physical has to start out mental. It has to start out in the fourth dimension. And just like Bidel said, as far as like your plans, what you have going, you don't want to say that around too many people, because these days, you never know who's watching, you never know who's listening. At the end of the day, you never know somebody's thought process, what somebody's true intentions are. So a lot of times people say their plans out in public, and it gets telekinetically knocked down,
Right. Yeah, because non-corporeal demons can block manifestation frequencies.
Remember, the most common form of cursed magic in the world. The most common form is called ill wish. When
What's
you
that?
wishing that somebody tell you they finna do something great, and you don't wish them well, you wish that they don't succeed.
Mm.
You projecting the energy, and the people around you, if they the ones that's projecting that energy, they can trigger your self-sabotage because you don't want that person to benefit from your prosperity,
Mm.
controlling your energy, right? And that's why I say when you do the magic circle, you are symbolically putting yourself in the position of creator, right? And until you see your creation, the creation is being created. Or else you would have already seen it if it was past tense created. But while all these things are in the process of creation, you can't see them until they're created. It's process. And the energy that you put in the development of it, processing energetically, the faster you can cause the physical effect of bringing that into your reality that they call manifestation. It's the focusing of the energy, the control of the energy, and the understanding of the energy is required to do either of the two. Once you understand how the energy works, and then you can capitalize greatness. That's why you go back to the platonic solids. They all got something in common with the desire to put it back into the creation flower in order for it to manifest into the 3D. Right? It's frequency.
Indeed. So I started out an amazing show so far. Shout out to everybody in the chat once again. Share this chat with a loved one. We got about 3,700 people in the chat right now. Amazing show so far. I started out talking about Bobby Hemmett. Giving respect to Bobby Hemmett and saying how he said a new species was going to be formed from everything that transpired in America. So if you think about America and you think about who we call the African American man, and so much talk is always focused on them when the Olympics come around and we see the Black Americans dominate the Olympics, track and field, basketball, all types of different sports. I want to know if we call the Caucasian the 6 ether beings and we have all these names and they don't have a certain amount of melanin, right? And certain people look at African Americans as not being pure Black people because, our complexion was lighting up throughout the mixing process. Why is it that it seems, or why is it that Bobby's talking about, or why are we seeing those group of people excel being mixed with this group of people who they say are lesser, but we see these group of people being the most influential people in the entire world, where anything that this group of people does, the entire world tries to emulate. No matter what race, color, gender, creed they are, they want to emulate this group of people that went through this whole process in America. So if we were diluted, they some people would say we were diluted. Like how you dilute something, you make it weaker. It seems like we got stronger during the process, and we're like super people now. Like we think of shit, we do shit, jazz, hip hop, all the shit we have invented. There's over 50,000 patents from African Americans. Half the shit we use in our home is from African Americans during a certain period. So why we got diluted? Why does it seem like we rose even further up?
Somebody highly innovative, highly intelligent, highly energetic, someone who has a large accumulation of vitality that is connected to the amount of neuromelanin produced in the blood from the pineal gland. And the people that have the highest concentration of that neuromelanin in the blood are the so-called Black Americans.
That's a fact, because where's your African Michael Jackson? Where's your African Michael Jordan? Where's your African Tupac?
That's right.
All the greats come from this geographical landmass that we call America, that was Atlantis. So as far as like our melanin count, our neuromelanin count, which is the brain and central nervous system melanin, we have an influx of melanocytes that taps into a certain intelligence that basically makes us pioneers, basically.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
Brother Rich, I love
Yeah.
these guys.
Huh? What you say, Rod?
I love these guys.
I appreciate it. Salute.
Get Rod. Close that question out, Rod. Go ahead, Rod.
Okay. So we got to remember that they are telling us stuff in plain sight.
Yeah, come on, come on.
All right. They're giving us the feedback off the reality.
Yes.
You got to go to the names of the epithets that they call America throughout what they call the lodge systems, the churches. America is known as the great melding pot.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? The place where you come for bounty, the land of milk and honey.
Mm-hmm.
One drop of blood makes you one of us.
Okay.
So what we're looking at is evolution being controlled from external forces, from the agency of man. Right? You ever hear Bobby talk about the great debauchery?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And the symbol for the medical field, the caduceus, is also the ancient symbol for DNA. The great debauchery was tampering with the human genome in the laboratory.
Okay.
This created a condition that was producing birth defects at an alarming rate. Enki gives them the remedy in the Sumerian tablets. The remedy to correct the errors in the genome is to give them the Anunnaki blood. So the royal families of all of the participating families of the Galactic Council sent down people with so-called celestial royal blood to correct the great debauchery. This is what put us in the Pleiadian light lock, the Van Allen belt.
Okay.
The people believe is the firmament.
Right.
But it's part of a conjured network for multiple celestial groups. It's backed up by a Arcturian radiation matrix. This is why they can't get past the Van Allen belt unless they find what's called space windows.
Space. Hold up, Rod. Say unless they find space. What?
Windows. They call them atmospheric windows.
Okay.
So it's like unlocking a combination lock to get on the other side of the Van Allen belt.
Okay.
Basically, like an energy field over the earth that's used as a soul trap, you know, to keep us here.
Right.
That's what people call it, the soul trap. But it's part of the infinity loop when they crash fourth into third, and the infinity loop makes us be in the sacred 8 ball. Where we live in the upside down for a series of cycles, and then we live upright for a series of cycles. So the 8, the figure 8 on its side, but if you close it like this, it'll mirror itself. Right? That was when they collapsed it and required us to split consciousness. If your consciousness from your dream state is in control of the physical world as it is of your dream, you a problem to the system. Right? And everybody had to leave their celestial forms to come into a human form, use a human avatar, and we all got to work in teams to get out of the condition, flip out the eternity loop,
right?
The infinity loop. We need the alignment of the Maherta at the same time that we're working on the liberation.
Okay.
Right? For the source energy to get the feedback that we working at curing the problem and we were successful. That's why none of the other elders from the past was able to match the Maherta on time.
Okay.
hit it on time this time. So that flips us out of the eternity loop. So then what's the next dimension after the fourth, the fifth? Right? And the fifth dimension is the age of Aquarius, where all things must be made known.
Okay. Let me so let me Rod, you had mentioned well, you mentioned we have mentioned the Anunnaki a couple of times during this interview, and you mentioned Inky. I want to ask you all about Thoth real quick. A real popular name in the internet streets these days. Thoth. B-Dell's been talking about the Tahuti energy, Melchizedek, all of that type of energy. Rod Hayes talks about it. RFG talks about this energy. If they say, like I've heard, they say Thoth in the Emerald Tablets, they said Thoth said he observed civilizations rise and fall. So let's say he observed a 25,000 year cycle. What I want to know is that because we know the science of dimensions and time and things being different, do you think that it's possible for him to observe a 25,000 year cycle? Maybe it was 100 years where he was at. So when he's saying this and he's writing this, we think he lived 100,000 years, but where he was at when he observed this, him being conscious of his multidimensional nature, it was only 100 years where he was at. So what do you think about a lot of the history we get and a lot of the books we get passed down? The time is completely different from what we perceive. We're perceiving these historical books from a 2024 perspective, when in reality, we're not looking at it from a multidimensional nature. And Thoth looked at this shit rise and fall in 100 years, but it was really 25,000 years Earth time. What's your thoughts on that idea in terms of us studying history from the wrong timeline or using the wrong time reference point?
So a lot of the wrong information that we operate from was given to us deliberately.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you can control the way a person perceives reality, you can use that control in order to use their manifestation ability to work on the behalf of the reality you want them to create.
Right.
Right? Now you gotta remember, if right now we wasn't in physical form, time wouldn't exist.
Right.
How long have we been calculating time on Earth?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Shit. How long?
On a system that was created by Pope Gregory, and every 360 days away from our birthday, we've been saying we're getting 1 year older every 365 days away from our birthday, and that in itself puts ourselves in a daze. DAZE. That's where they come up with the term days. DAYS. You see what I'm saying? It's all an illusion. And then you got the month, MON, dealing with the mana, which means moon, the moon matrix, which is an illusion. You see what I'm saying? It's all, and then you have the days make a week. You see what I'm saying? That's harvesting energy from the body, making you weak, thinking that you're getting older, believing in the illusion of time, the illusion of Maya.
Mm-hmm. That's a fact.
Look, if you go back, history starts with the first dynasty in Egypt. That's recorded history, and the Sumerians is contemporary with the first dynasty. But nobody's talking about the other kings list that before the first dynasty, where one king lived 100,000 Earth years. Right? Because history starts with the first dynastic period in Egypt. That's because the common practice of history comes out of the temple priest of Tahuti to record the records and knowing that the amnesia was coming. The amnesia is a side effect of the collapsing of the fourth dimension into the third. Because you're seeing two minds together at the same time. That knocked you silly. You was delirious. But before the first dynasty, right, they not telling you the Sphinx was there almost 8,000 years before the pyramids. But that's if you use their dating systems, popularized by Sheikh Anta Diop